They tried to undermine my career without realizing I was the one signing their paychecks. Stick around, what began as betrayal will become the ultimate power play. And if you love stories of subtle revenge and unstoppable success, hit that subscribe button. Money can't buy happiness, but it certainly funds the perfect comeback, especially when your toxic family has no clue you're sitting on a $500 million fortune. I discovered that lesson just last month, when my own parents and brother attempted to derail my career, unaware they were targeting the company's owner. My name is Cassandra Ortiz, though in most boardrooms I go by Cass. Officially, I'm the newly appointed Chief Strategy Officer at Everlin Dynamics, a cutting-edge biotech firm based in Seattle. Here's what my family doesn't know. 2 months ago, I quietly became the majority shareholder by acquiring control through a series of discrete trust transactions. My journey began nearly 18 years ago when I was a scholarship student studying biomedical engineering at Georgia Tech. Meanwhile, my younger brother, Xavier, coasted through Stanford on our parents' dime. Xavier needs support, Mom always said. You've always been so independent, Cass. Independent barely covers it. I juggled lab research, tutoring jobs, and coding side projects to pay the bills. Xavier, on the other hand, vacationed in Europe, proudly posting every wine tasting and yacht party. But I remained patient and focused on my dream, and eventually it paid off. By the time I turned 30, I had founded and sold 2 biotech startups. I kept my involvement off press releases, funneled profits through shell companies, and let the world see me only as another mid-level executive. Why the secrecy? Because I knew how money poisons relationships. My parents always praised Xavier's steady corporate sales job while dismissing my work as a fragile experiment. You should talk to Xavier, Mom would suggest at dinner. He can help you break into real business. So I let them think I needed their help, while I executed my masterstroke, a stealth acquisition of Everlin Dynamics, where I'd worked quietly for a little over a year. The company was undervalued but brimming with potential. Using a complex web of trusts and entities, I gained control without anyone suspecting me. When the board appointed me Chief Strategy Officer, they believed they were hiring a loyal strategist. They had no idea they were handing the reins to the new owner. Xavier's reaction? Let's just say it was delicious. Must be nice to finally catch a break, he sneered at our monthly family dinner. I hope you're not in over your head, he added. Corporate leadership is a whole different beast than tinkering with science projects. My parents exchanged anxious glances. Maybe Xavier could mentor you, Mom offered helpfully. He's been managing teams for years, sweetheart. I smiled politely, suppressing laughter. If only they knew the acquisition documents were locked away in my home safe. I'll keep that in mind, I replied calmly. But Xavier wasn't satisfied with smug remarks. My promotion had upended the family pecking order. He'd always been the golden child, the conventional success story, while I was the quiet nerd who never fit in. The first red flag appeared when he started dropping by Everlin Dynamics for casual lunches with department heads. I watched from my office window as he joked with senior staff, feigning concern for his overwhelmed sister, and subtly probing for weaknesses in my leadership. Then came the anonymous HR tips, accusations of falsified degrees, rumors of inflated credentials, baseless, easily disproven, but clear in intent. Someone's trying to destroy me, I thought. When I confronted him, Xavier said sweetly, you know how tech companies are, promote women too quickly these days to meet diversity quotas. I'd hate for you to crash and burn. I let him dig deeper, curious to see how far he'd go. The climax arrived yesterday, a sealed envelope delivered to the board, containing a polished dossier of forged bank statements, altered emails, and a fabricated timeline painting me as a fraud, embezzler, insider trader, report forger. It was a masterclass in malicious fabrication. The board convened an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. Xavier must have heard through his office grapevine, because at dinner last night he practically glowed. The board wants me there tomorrow, he announced grandly. There's a big change at the top. Mom and Dad beamed, neither asking why I hadn't been invited to the mysterious meeting about my own position. But here's what they don't know. I spent last night building my own dossier. Every manipulation, every lie, every whisper campaign, documented in excruciating detail. And I'll reveal Everlin Dynamics' true ownership structure, too. Tomorrow, they'll finally learn who's really in charge. If you think Xavier's about to get away with this, you'll want to hit that subscribe button because what happens next changes everything. I should be furious. I should be devastated that my brother tried to destroy my career, and that my parents eagerly RSVP'd to my professional execution. Yet, sitting here in my home office, surrounded by printouts of forged bank statements and false email chains, I feel surprisingly calm. Xavier's twisted scheme has given me the perfect stage. They thought they'd finally toppled me, never realizing they were playing into my hands. This was my rare chance to confront not only their betrayal but a lifetime of being underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people believe they've won, right up until the moment they realize they were never in control. The board meeting was scheduled for 900 a.m. sharp. My family would arrive expecting my downfall. Instead, they were about to learn why you never bet against the quiet one in the corner, especially when she owns the table and all the pieces are in place. The curtains were about to rise, and for once in my life, I actually looked forward to a meeting. I arrived at Everlin Dynamics early that Friday, right on cue at 8:45. Xavier swept into the lobby wearing his sharpest suit. Mom and Dad followed behind, dressed for a victory they hadn't earned. "Is the board ready for us?" Xavier asked the front desk, practically humming with anticipation. His expression reminded me of the time he accidentally deleted my science project in 8th grade. From my office upstairs, I watched them being led to the executive conference room. The board followed soon after, solemn, tight-lipped, exactly as I'd instructed. Everyone had received my private message the night before. At 900 a.m. on the dot, I pushed back my chair, inhaled deeply, and walked down the hall. Time to begin. Victor Alvarez, our board chair, was mid-sentence when I entered. "These allegations against Ms. Ortiz are extremely serious," he began. "Sorry I'm late," I said cheerfully, sliding into my seat at the table. Xavier's smug grin faltered. "Cass, this is a closed session. You weren't invited," he snapped, glancing nervously at the directors. I folded my hands. "Actually, I invited myself. It's rather difficult to hold a board meeting without the company's owner." Silence fell deliciously. Xavier's jaw dropped. Mom blinked rapidly. Dad looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. "What are you talking about?" Xavier sputtered. "Everlin Dynamics is a public company, owned by shareholders." "Correction," I said, nodding to my assistant, Zoe. She stepped forward and began distributing folders. "Everlin Dynamics was public until 2 months ago, when Ortiz's strategic holdings quietly purchased it. Would anyone care to guess who owns that?" Realization spread across the room. Directors' eyes widened as they flipped through the pages. Some had speculated about the mysterious private trust behind the buyout, but no one knew the owner's identity. Until now. "This is insane," Xavier blurted. "You can't afford that. You're just a lab geek, just a coder." I finished for him, smiling. "Yes, you've made that perfectly clear." Then I turned to Zoe. "Please play the recordings." She tapped her tablet, and the room filled with Xavier's voice dripping with false concern. "Between us, Cass is not leadership material, she'll crash hard." Another clip. "Have you noticed any irregularities in her department's finances? Might be worth a closer look." Every whisper campaign played back like a perfectly timed symphony. Xavier sank in his chair, color draining from his face. "And this," I said, holding up the envelope he'd sent the board, "is your dossier of forged bank statements, altered emails, and fabricated timelines. Your attempt at character assassination and corporate sabotage. Did you really think no one would verify before taking action?" "I was protecting the company," Xavier blurted, voice cracking. "You're not qualified. You've never been the one who succeeds," I interrupted quietly. "You didn't deserve to be here. But I deserve to expose you for corporate espionage, for manipulating stock perception, and for endangering our future with lies." Mom's voice broke the silence. "Surely you wouldn't ruin your own brother's life?" "Like he didn't try to ruin mine," I replied, turning to her. "Like you didn't come here hoping to watch it happen." Dad raised a hand. "We were just supporting Xavier." "No," I cut in. "You were doing exactly what you've always done, betting on him." Then I addressed the board. "I apologize for the theatrical nature of this meeting, but I needed everyone here. Mr. Xavier Ortiz has committed multiple serious violations in his attempt to sabotage my role at this company. His actions not only targeted me but exposed Everlin Dynamics to legal and regulatory risk." Victor Alvarez cleared his throat. "What would you like us to do, Ms. Ortiz?" I sat back and folded my hands. "First, I want it on record that you've reviewed and dismissed all allegations against me as categorically false, based on verified documentation and our internal review. Second, I request the board send a formal letter to Xavier's employer detailing his misconduct, audio recordings, fabricated evidence, and corporate espionage, so this follows him professionally. Third, I want it documented that Xavier Ortiz and our parents are permanently banned from Everlin Dynamics property. Any attempt to contact staff or interfere with operations will result in immediate legal action. Cass, please, Mom sobbed, mascara streaking down her cheeks. We're family, I let out a short, cold laugh. Family supports each other. Family cheers your wins. Family doesn't fake documents and spread lies because they can't handle your success. I then placed one final folder on the table. My ace. This, I said, sliding it across the boardroom, is the acquisition contract for my first biotech startup, sold for $50 million at age 27, and for my second startup, $180 million 2 years later. I could have bought that golf club membership, paid for every luxury trip you treated Xavier to as trophies, but I didn't. They stared at the numbers, stunned. Figures that shattered every story they'd ever told themselves. I remained silent, wanting to discover who'd stand by me when they believed I possessed nothing. They all failed that test. Xavier's face drained of color. You're firing me from my position, he whispered. No, I answered gently. Your own deeds dismissed you just as you attempted to dismiss me. Only this time you actually committed the offense you're accused of. I rose once more, collecting the final documents. This board meeting is adjourned, I announced firmly. Victor, ensure every record is properly filed and secured. Then I faced them again. Xavier, mother, father, security will escort you out. Wait, Xavier implored, his voice trembling as I reached the door. Please, I'm sorry. I was envious. His lips quivered. I couldn't bear that you were finally surpassing me. We can mend this, can't we? We're still a family. I paused at the threshold and turned back. Do you understand the difference between us, Xavier? He lifted his gaze, eyes glossy. When you believed I was faltering, you pushed me further down. And when I achieved success, I didn't broadcast it to spare your pride. I exhaled. That is the distinction between genuine achievement and the petty game you've been playing. The following weeks were revealing. Xavier lost his employment almost immediately once his employer examined the proof of his sabotage. Word of my triumph at Everlin Dynamics spread like wildfire. Overnight, the same country club acquaintances who once fawned over my brother began inquiring after me. Mother and father left tearful voicemails. Xavier sent handwritten letters of apology. Even his therapist dispatched a note detailing his progress. I archived every message without a single reply. 3 months later, I was burning the midnight oil when Naomi buzzed my office. Someone here to see you, says it's personal. It was Xavier, but not the polished, arrogant boy I once knew. He looked leaner, years older, hair cropped short, no flashy watch, no bespoke blazer, just a plain button-down shirt and a manila envelope in his hand. I'm not staying long, he began, raising his hand. I simply need to say something. He stepped forward and placed the envelope on my desk. Inside is everything: passwords, contacts, details I unearthed while plotting against you. I'm also sending a letter to the board and to my former employer, owning up to every deed. No excuses. I watched him in silence before asking why now. Because you were right, he admitted. I wasn't creating anything real. You were, and I hated you for it. He moved toward the door, then hesitated. I'm starting over, a small startup, entry level. No more shortcuts. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that allowing me to fail taught me more than our parents ever did by helping me cheat. Xavier, I called softly. He turned, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Send me your resume in a year. Not for a leadership role, I added gently, but if you truly want to earn success the honest way, we're always looking for people who are willing to start at the bottom. A single tear slid down his cheek. He nodded, composed himself, and departed without another word. 6 months later, Everlin Dynamics has outperformed even my most optimistic forecasts. We're developing transformative biotech solutions, expanding rapidly, and creating hundreds of new positions across the Pacific Northwest. Something authentic, something that endures. Mother and father still send the occasional message, usually when they need a favor or wish to name-drop their CEO daughter at a social event. I keep my responses polite but distant. The approval I once craved so desperately is no longer necessary. The corner office they said I'd never earn now offers an unobstructed view of the Seattle skyline. Some evenings I sit by the window as the sun sinks behind the mountains, reflecting on family, ambition, and the remarkable power of being underestimated. Last week, I received a holiday card from Xavier. No guilt, no requests, just a quiet note. You succeeded not because of us but in spite of us. I'm learning to do the same. Maybe that is the ultimate revenge, quietly earned, undeniably real.